industry.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. It's such a niche career, that everyone's departments are very different, and athletics is different as a whole. I love this stuff.
Mhm.
I'm definitely happy to talk today.
Yeah, for sure. I love doing it too, getting myself out there and being definitely nervous, or starting out at least I was nervous, and just the public speaking and one-on-one conversations, but I've enjoyed them all, and they've been great experience, practice for me for speaking and also just learning information from people across the country. It's just been awesome. I've, like I said, 20 of them from all different aspects, Northeast and California to Florida. It's been awesome, and yeah, I'm excited. So to start out with you, Cliff, if you could just kind of give us a background of yourself and how you got to where you are at Wake Forest.
Yeah, definitely happy to. So I started as a student in sport management in college. Thought it sounded cool. My dad was nervous. He's like, "What what are you gonna do with this career?" And ended up getting an internship at Toledo, and it was it was for marketing. I just thought it sounded cool. I didn't really know what that meant. Was able to start that internship at Toledo, and I loved it. Absolutely loved it. It was the first time, being on a field and helping with events and, being a part of the game day production. It was really when I knew, like, all right, I could see this being a career. So did that for a year, graduated, and was lucky enough to be hired on as the grad assistant there. And that's where you get some real experience. For a mid-major school, grad assistants are basically full-time employees. Like, you are tasked with full-time roles, responsibilities, hours. So, super, super proud of that time. And I think that's really where I started to make my mark a little bit, and knowing that this is what I wanted to do. Graduated from grad school after that 2-year program, went down to Georgia for a year, and that was a promotions assistant role, kind of a post grad internship type thing, and opportunity to see, how a school the size of Georgia operates. And it was a little bit of a weird year with COVID, but it was a great experience for me, and going from Toledo to Georgia and kind of seeing what that was like. At that time, I
Yeah,
knew I wanted to be that full time position. I was working towards that. It was a goal of mine, and my old boss at Toledo called me and was like, "Would you love to come back and be our coordinator?" Jumped on that. And that's where it was like, all right, it's on. I'm directing for men's and women's basketball. Both are huge at Toledo. Revenue sports, women's basketball is top 25 in the country annually for attendance at Toledo. So it was like a real responsibility, but also area to grow and kind of get, familiar with the expectations of those types of sports. And I'm just really proud of my time there. Over those 2 years, had a big hand in everything we were doing, football, bigger decisions that we were making. And, I felt I was ready to run my own department. And so I was looking for opportunities in Coastal Carolina. Director position was open, and went down there. And, those 2 years were crazy, because it was, truly a rebuild from the start. Like, it was from the foundations, learning things that I had never done before, managing, a team. It was a young team. We didn't have a big staff, but it was, grad assistants and really young assistant directors, and, video board things and different aspects that I had not touched before. And being able to start from the ground up was extremely challenging, time consuming, exhausting, but I'm like so proud that I went through that, because I learned so much. And now I'm to the point where, after those experiences, I really know so many of the different aspects that go into, the game production and the marketing and all those things, to where I was able to get a promotion at Coastal to assistant AD. And then this past spring, this opportunity came up with Wake Forest for this associate AD position, focused primarily on game presentation, campus partnerships, and those type of things. And I felt super ready for it. Been here for 8 months. I absolutely love it. And I'm definitely using a lot of those things that I learned throughout my career. And it wasn't just, I may not be doing all the things I was doing at Coastal, but I know how those systems operate, to where I can, provide guidance and really try to implement our vision here for what we're trying to do.
yeah. Obviously a cool kind of path to path, and have going back to Toledo's. That's obviously something special to have one of your old bosses contact you and ask to come back. In those years, and kind of from intern to GA, and you mentioned GA, they are a full-time position. When I was interning here in development, my bosses were the GAs, and they were there more than we were, and They're still here at nights and on game days and everything, and they're really the kind of the backbone of some departments here and everywhere. I think GA positions are everlasting and just awesome. But kind of explain how you went from like an intern and then GA to wanting to be that director and kind of transitioning from, hey, I'm getting led to now you're leading people.
Yeah, and I think that you nailed it with the GA positions, and I always think that's a great first step. And it's yes, I did get my master's degree, like that was a part of it, but to be honest, the value that I got from my grad assistantship was the experience. Like I was running volleyball and softball. I was the primary sport contact for the first time ever. I was able to really be prideful in that and work with coaches and you know, make an impact for different sports. Where in the past I was just kind of supporting in different ways as an intern. So that was key. And then also you get a lot of leadership experience. You know, as a grad assistant, you're the one that's, you know, managing and hiring and dismissing, you know, interns if you need to. So to be able to have that leadership experience and to be able to go throughout my career and you know, have that evolve, I think all that's really important. So,
Uh,
you know, getting those experiences early where you're not getting paid that much, you know, it's really about the experience. And you know, I talk about with my young staff here that it's not only about the experience, it's also like, what are you going to talk about in your next interviews? If you're not doing these things, you're not doing these different tasks that a GA has to do, like you don't have as much to talk about. So to be able to have that experience, you have things to say that you've done and that you've been successful with. Yeah, I can touch on that. Just with that experience of being a grad assistant, you know, I always talk about with my young employees about the experience you get during that stretch is great for interviews. And as you go through your career, it's you have those things to talk about, you know, when you're meeting with coaches or trying different promotions or doing different things like marketing wise. You know, you have that real experience of running a sport. And so that's really great stuff to talk about when you're trying to get those, you know, coordinator roles or assistant director roles and those types of things. So, you know, I think that's a big part of being the GA, and then also the leadership side of, you know, hiring and firing or you know, training and managing and scheduling like all these student workers and interns that you need to do all the things that we do in a game day presentation side of things. So I think all that's super valuable and it's great experience you can get as a grad assistant.
Yeah, explain what it's like to be in charge of a specific sport, you know, having to take on that role early in your career. What was that like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think I always try to talk about the coaching staffs and how it's not in your job description, but like, you know, knowing how to manage and talk to and communicate with the coaching staff is a huge part of what we do from a fan experience side and also marketing. You know, coaches are always pushing and they want to have fans and students at their games. Like that's a big priority for them. So being able to explain, you know, what we're doing, why we're doing it, and you know, when things are going great, you know, explaining, you know, how we got there, and then when things are not so great, what are the steps that we're still taking, the things that we're doing, you know, to show that effort and to show that we are, you know, being strategic and thoughtful about our approach. So that's a big balance of it. You know, obviously the experience of actually doing the job and you know, reaching, you know, I think about volleyball, my first year doing it, you know, I really wanted to take that on and enhance the attendance and get more people out to games. And, you know, I went to the lengths of scheduling. My goal was to schedule a youth team for every single match. And at that point with Toledo, you know, volleyball wasn't a highly attended sport. And I wanted to make sure that, hey, at least I have 20 to 30 of these, you know, youth teams there screaming and cheering and coming, you know, down after the game and getting autographs and making our student athletes feel special. And, you know, I built some really awesome relationships with local coaches in the area. And you know, we would always offer a tour. And this is a credit to the coaching staff. Like Jason Oliver was there. He was incredible. And he's like, whatever you need, like, let me know. And we did tours of the locker room. So the team would run out for warmups and I would bring in this youth team to show them the locker room. And they would always just think it's the coolest thing ever. And, you know, those are just unique experiences that the coaches in the area, the local youth coaches would really appreciate. You know, at a certain point, they started hitting me up, you know, in the summer, being like, hey, like, when's our date going to be this year so we can come out and watch a game? And like, even after I left, I would get, you know, coaches hit me up and say, hey, like, what are we doing this fall? And I had to tell them that I had moved on to a new role. But I think that was just a testament to kind of relationships that we were building from the ground up, and building that foundation, and you need that. I'm really happy about those experiences. And I look now at Toledo, and their volleyball team is crushing it, and they're really prioritizing it as a from the top down, of the importance of getting some people out there, and they're selling season tickets now. And it's cool to be at the front end of that.
Yeah, I think being on the ticketing side now and an entry level position, reaching out to those groups and creating those connections is super huge. And on my side, and then obviously on the marketing side, we work hand in hand to just building those connections. And like you mentioned, youth teams, leagues is something I'm really honing in on myself right now for baseball and women's basketball right now. But yeah, I think just creating this huge like community connections is very, very, very key.
Yeah, and I think about, like, I was the director. I was a one man show. I may have an intern or two there, but like, I would set up for the game, get everything ready to go, and then I would go meet this team out in pregame and give them a tour of the facility, and just taking that extra step to make them feel appreciated, and that stuff mattered, like, over time. That compounds over time, and that's kind of the approach that I want the my employees now to have about. It may be the extra step or the extra assignment to work, and more coordination and all those things, but this stuff, it matters and it pays off. And like I said, it compounds over time to really help your bottom line.
Yeah. Yeah, so you've been at Wake Forest, I believe since June,
Yep.
having kind of, I guess almost it's kind of quickly becoming almost a year.
Crazy.
But how is your role as a game day, fan experience, and campus partnerships? How's the role treated you and kind of evolved until present day?
Yeah, I mean, I've absolutely loved it. I love the staff here. It's a really unique university, and people always say that, but I can attest to it. It is very unique here, and I feel very well supported here by the administration, and very involved with a lot of things we're doing. So that's been really cool. This role has been different for me than in years past, because there isn't a marketing aspect. We do have a marketing team, we have a sales team, so it's been great for me to really focus in on the game presentation side of things. And obviously, we still do a lot of the grassroots stuff. We're very, like, we're still tasked with, like, students, and that's what that campus partnership is, and that's not just students, it's faculty, staff, it's different departments on campus. But to really hone in on those items, and not be sending the mass emails every week or every other day like I was in my past. I'm glad that I was able to have that experience, but to not have to worry about that, and know that we have a really talented marketing team that is being really thorough. And so that's been really cool for me. And that's not to say that we're not involved with those things, and helping coordinate. Hey, when you send out information on this game, like, make sure we include this promotion, and trying to make sure that all those things are accounted for. But to really focus on what I consider the fun part, which is the game presentation, the video boards, and what we're doing, the promotions, and those type of things. I've really enjoyed that piece, and it's been different because this is a smaller university. We only have about 5,500 students here, which is the smallest student population that I've ever been at. Even though I've been at smaller schools, technically, not ACC schools. So you really have to be effective with it. And you think about football, like, we averaged about 4,000 students per game. We only have 5,000 students here. So you got to get almost every student that's on this campus to the game, or else you're not going to fill your student section up. So the expectations are higher, the pressure is a little bit higher, but the students care about sports here. They want to support. So we just got to make things easy for them, explain why they should be here, and develop those relationships with the campus leaders and the campus life folks. And it's been really, really good so far.
Yeah, for sure. Great year all around. And even with, I guess you quote unquote smaller sports. I think like number one team in tennis right now, men's tennis, and then just historically good tennis and baseball is not too much smaller than
Yeah.
football or basketball, but still on the revenue side a little bit less. But how do you effectively kind of shift for each sport, kind of football and to basketball, then baseball? How are each game days different? How are they similar?
Yeah, I think it's been a good experience, having people. In the past, it's really been myself and maybe one or two, trusty employees to help put all this stuff on, and now we have a full staff. We have 6 people, including me, that are putting these sports on, and it's my job to set the tone, set the expectations of what we're doing, for each sport. I mean, I think that's like this first year has all been about like the foundation. What does that foundation look like in year one, to where we feel really good, and we know there's going to be tons of room to improve next year, but like let's get that foundation set. I've everywhere I've been, like year two has always been the biggest jump because you know what you don't know the first year. You have the process to figure it out. You know the people to contact on campus and in the community to help you, do the things you're trying to do. So year one's been about those basics, and we finally filled our staff out. Everyone really only has 1 to 2 primary sports, so that helps with being able to kind of focus on one thing in a certain season. I think there's a pretty clear approach of like, these are the things that we're doing on campus to promote each match. Here's our expectations for giveaway items. Here's the dates that we're identifying to really maximize what we're buying to help give away for students to help, our student attendance and our overall attendance. So it's that consistent plan throughout. Yes, it will look different by sport, but kind of knowing that our process is the same and that we're going to be really thorough throughout is I think how we're going to be successful.
Yeah, for sure. What's that relationship like with the student body? Obviously, you said only about 5,500. I was doing a little research and I saw that there's the Screaming Deacons. So I wanted to see kind of how that relationship works with the student body and kind of how the Screaming Deacons works.
Yeah, so that really starts with our app, and I've been at schools with an app. I've been at schools without the app, and we were lucky here that it was already kind of ingrained in the culture. It's connected with our tickets. Students know that to go to a football game, you have to have it. Where at Toledo, they were still getting tickets separately from the app, so it was more like, hey, get the app so you can do this, the rewards and loyalty and all that stuff. Where here, it's like, hey, they have to have the app just to get into the game, and then we can kind of help grow that with the loyalty stuff to make them, or have them come to tennis or come to soccer and those types of things. So that's helped a lot. And I think the relationships are key. So, like during the football season, there's a tailgate meeting that's every game week, and where we talk to student org leaders on, where their tailgate location will be, if there's any like new different changes for that week. And that's been a good like connection with that group. I think that a big part of what we do, I mean, campus partnership is in my title, so it's really about building those relationships. And I think about last night, we had almost 1,700 for our men's basketball game, which is, one of the highest, it's the highest all year. And it's one of the highest non-Duke or UNC matchups that we've had in a long time. So super proud of that. But it was funny because I had the IFC president, he came up to me, I'd emailed him last week, and he was like, apologizing that he missed the email, and he's like, I don't want you to think I blew you off and all these things. And like, to me, like that meant more than anything else, because it was like I knew he wasn't blowing me off, but like he felt generally bad that he didn't help reach out to students. And it's like, hey man, we got other opportunities that we're going to do that. And just to know that I have that relationship with like the IFC president, and the students actually care about what we're doing, and they can see the change that we've made in year one, and they want to be a part of that. So I think that was like a positive sign that we're doing the right things, and that's only going to help us as we continue through this semester with our final 6 men's basketball games at home, and then we're really going to be set up to launch that next year.
Yeah, it's cool to see that relationship, like you said, with the IFC president and with the student body. What are some specific rewards or kind of like just incentives, or just to get people out to games? What do you offer?
I think I'm big on the gear, and you got to be really like intentional with that. And I've been out of college for a few years now, and but I still think I know like what students like. And I think that when I first got here, it was like, all right, for the fall sports, what are we doing? And we ended up doing these two. We did a white hat and a black, both snapbacks, and just really stylish. And I still see students wearing those. Like, I think that was super effective. And what I like about that is we ordered a bulk of both, and we ended up giving, 2 giveaways for each of our fall sports. So field hockey, both soccer's, volleyball, we kind of split it up to where we saved some money on ordering them in bulk. And we also provided multiple opportunities for students to be able to go and get these. And I still see students wearing those. So I think giveaway items are effective. I never want to be the department that's giving something away at every game or every match. I think that then it becomes like an expectation of, I'm not going unless you're giving me something for free. But I think that it can help, provide some buzz for certain games that maybe normally wouldn't have that. Or if you want to go more so to a game that is going to be packed, like what's that experience piece look like? And I think back to CrowdSync, which is the light up wristbands that can sync to your videos and music and those type of things. And we did that for our Oklahoma game for men's basketball versus Oklahoma in December. That was a really cool thing to activate, and it's not a cheap thing, but we got a sponsor on it, and we were able to do some really cool things with the crowd and everyone kind of syncing up with their wristbands. So I think there's kind of two buckets to it.
For sure. Yeah, that is a cool activation with the wristbands and everything. What's the feedback? How do you receive the feedback? And what, like, if it's something went well, obviously you're gonna hear about it on social media and maybe from the student body, but maybe if something doesn't go well or something can be fixed and like you said, it's only year one, so you're probably trying new things and doing different stuff, but how do you get that feedback?
Yeah, we do surveys, and I think those help. I think also just having that relationship, like we talked about, like when I met with the IFC president when I first got here, and he was talking about the things that he wishes were different from years past, and some frustrations that he's had in regards to athletics in the past. And so, we're not going to solve every problem, and sometimes there's logistics and other reasons why we're doing things, but to be able to listen and kind of get that feedback, and then when we're planning and coming up with some different things, like we can go back to that and say, "Hey, like, how should we do this differently, and how should we make this better?" Like that's a big part of it. And I think about social media as well. Like obviously, you're gonna get people's thoughts and opinions. And last night we had Carolina Mike. I don't know if you know who that is. He's a social media musician. He went viral a few months back, and I reached out to him in October, and we scheduled this date, and it was electric. We had our student section all standing, going nuts for his performance at halftime. The amount of engagement we've gotten on social media before, during, and after the event is incredible. And those are things that like no one asked us to do. That was something that I stumbled upon. And Carolina Mike, we're in North Carolina. Like, can we get this guy here? And we were able to pull it off, and it worked out really well. And it's just those type of things I want us and our staff to always be looking for.
Yeah, I'll have to ask my best friend's brother goes to Wake Forest, he's a sophomore there, so I'll have to ask him and see if he went, but I'd assume he does, or I'd assume he went
Yeah.
because it seems like he's always going to every game, so
Yeah, we had a lot of students there last night, so I would hope he was there, and if not, he absolutely heard about it for sure.
yeah. Yeah, 100%, 100%, and that's so cool with, like, such a tight-knit community with only having what you said 5,500. It's cool. It's like its own honestly, it's like its own fraternity where you're just kinda all it seems like at least where it kinda all just seems to come together and everyone's, pretty close-knit, it sounds like.
Yeah, and that's a great point because there are times where we have to listen to the students on certain events they may have going on, or hey, like this weekend, we ran into this in the fall where we had a men's basketball game. I think it was on Saturday, and I had some of the guys, some of the students tell me like, hey, like this is our mountain weekend. We always have a formal weekend where we all go and to some mountain in North Carolina and we hang out, and so like for us, we need to know that stuff so we don't plan some big promotion on that. Or maybe it's just awareness to where our administration and our coaching staff knows like, hey, we're going to do all we can. Here's our plan to kind of adjust for this, but the students are gone. Like they're not here this
Mhm.
weekend. So those type of scenarios, it's another great reason to have those relationships so we can one plan ahead and kind of know when those events are coming and also be able to explain like this is why there's some less students here tonight because they're all gone and there's not 40,000 students we're
Yeah.
working with, there's 5,000. So if half of them are gone, that really dwindles our number. So it's good stuff to know.
Yeah, for sure. How do you rival with the North Carolinas and Duke, being in the same state? I'm not quite sure how far you are from each other. I know they're super close. I'm not sure how close you are to them, but, how do you rival that being with, 2 in-state powerhouses?
Yeah, I mean UNC, Duke, and NC State are all within an hour, hour and a half, and then Virginia Tech is also within 2 hours. So we have a lot of opponents right here in the area. I think that because of our small school size, that there's a lot of pride, very very much like this is our place and we're going to defend it. And the Big Four matchups are big. I've actually not really been to a place that's has so many schools close by. Like Coastal Carolina is very spread out. The Sun Belt is very spread out. There's not a lot of schools that are close to us. Toledo, we had Bowling Green right down the road, which was always obviously a rivalry game and always a big matchup that we would circle. But here to have three different schools and four if you count Virginia Tech that are all close by, I think it one helps because you're gonna have some added attention on those days and people know like when Duke, UNC, or NC State are coming to town, like we're gonna show out, we're gonna come out to the game, we're gonna represent. So I think that stuff helps. I think community wise, like we do get a lot of visitor fans. Like, there's a lot of NC State fans in this area. Winston-Salem's a pretty big city, and, when NC State's got 40,000 students, they're pumping out, 10 to 15,000 graduates every year, and those alumni are in the area. So, I think it helps from a attendance standpoint when you're getting some fans. Obviously, you want those fans to all be Wake Forest fans, but I'd rather have people in the building than not. So, it helps us in that way. But yeah, it's a real rivalry, and I kind of enjoy it. It's cool for me too. Like I was able to go to Virginia Tech this year for their football game, first Wake Forest, and I went to Duke when we played there. So for me to be able to go and see these other facilities and other game presentations that are close by, that only makes us better.
Yeah, do you take notes, or
Oh
are you
yeah.
just there as a fan when you go to those
Oh, I
games, or
absolutely
you're
take
taking.
notes. I'm watching everything that they're doing. And obviously Virginia Tech, that's one you circle with Enter Sandman, and I think they do as good a job as anyone in the game presentation side of things. So definitely looking at what we can do better, and if there's things that we can make work for us, I'm not afraid to look into that, and even just little things like different times where they're going to live cameras or different music that they're playing. Sometimes it's like, hey, I think that we're doing this pretty good, looking at these other schools. And other times it's like, all right, we can really do better in this area in pregame, or, we can shorten this. So all that information is great. And I always try to go and see some away games when I can.
Yeah, it's cool here at KU. Opening up a new football stadium this year was super cool to see, like, what all different, or what was different from the old stadium. And I mean, having grown up here, I've been to a ton of games before, and then now after the construction, and it's cool to see, like, now we have like a going into the fourth quarter song, and like everyone's cheering, and like at night there's now like a light show and an LED light show and stuff, and that's kind of where it seems to be trending too in college football especially, but it's cool to see the new innovative ways that universities can go about that stuff.
Yeah, definitely. We got a nice light system here, and I think everyone's trying to get that song to stick because the schools that have it do it really well. And we've started a fish in the dark thing where we have kind of where our mantra for football is built in the dark, and so we started the fish in the dark sing along, and we got such good reviews from that, and students using it on their stories, and it's really starting to catch on a little bit. And those things just take time. Like it doesn't, that's not a 1 year thing. You have to really commit to it. Winning helps too. When you have those traditions, if you're really bad for those years, those traditions don't always stick. But if you have a couple good years, and the students remember that, or your fans remember those moments where, oh, I kind of like that they added that. That's how those things can stick around for a long time. So I'm hopeful that we're gonna be able to do that too.
Yeah, I'm hopeful in ours as well. It's Carry On My Wayward Son, which there's been some mixed reviews and some feedback, but,
Hmm.
you kinda, yeah, like you said, you either gotta stick with it, or quickly turn. And, definitely, I wouldn't say the most hyped song,
Yeah.
or or kinda going into the 4th quarter in a close game. I don't know if I'd wanna be hearing that, but, obviously, that's a conversation for, other people. Just to kinda round this out, Cliff, first off, appreciate it again for coming on. Kinda round it out, would love to dive more into yourself, and just kind of what skills you think someone coming into a role like this, or kind of in the career path of marketing and game day presentation, what skills do you have and someone may have that kind of you've seen as successful or succeeding in the industry?
Yeah, I think especially early on, you have to have patience with your career. I think a lot of the young people that have worked for me, and even myself early on, it's you really want to get to that next thing, and it's I should be here at this age, and I should be doing this at this age, and it's just not how things work. And I think if you are patient with your career, like things do work out. I think about I didn't get my first full-time job until 3 years post undergrad. Like I was doing the GA ship for 2 years, and then I went to Georgia for a year, and it took me 3 years. But then, like since then, I've been able to get to the point where I always wanted to be assistant AD, associate AD, and I've been able to get to that point where I'm here now at a really awesome university, and doing the things I love, and with the staff and resources that I need. So I think things take time. You just have to do a really good job, and be really passionate about what you do, and I think you know, the willingness to take the extra step is kind of how I always want to operate. You know, the job is never done with marketing. The job is never done with promotions. You know, game presentation. You're never going to get to a point where be like, oh, okay, we're done. We did everything we can do. Like, there's always more you
Yeah,
can do.
evolving
Yeah,
too.
and I think that you always gotta be able to take that extra step. You know, my 3 things that I always ask about, and I was able to kinda hire 5 people this fall, so I've went through this quite a bit, but it's creativity, it's reliability, and it's passion. So, like, are you being creative? Can you think outside the box? Can we be different? Can we get a social media guy to come in and perform at halftime? Can you do these things? Can you be reliable? Like, are you trustworthy? Can I trust you to take a task? Can I trust you to deal with a coach? Can I trust you to, take a sport and take ownership over it and make sure that the standard, is what it should be? And then the passion, and that kind of goes with positivity. Like, are you passionate about what you do? Are you staying positive? There's a lot of days where we have long hours. We have, hard work, especially for the younger employees here. We're moving boxes around. We're changing A-frame signs out. Last night after the game, two of our fellows went to campus to go switch our A-frames out to have next Saturday's game on instead of last night's game. So those are little things that go a long way, and it's stuff that needs done. But if it's becomes oh man, I got to go do this, and it's a hassle, like, you're not going to last long in the athletic industry. If you're positive and like, hey man, yeah, we get to do this. We're working in sports. This is really fun. This is awesome. Like, yes, there are challenges and frustrations and long days and those types of things, but you stay positive. Like, those are the people that I want to hire. Those are the people that really help your organization. Like, we can teach you hard skills. We can teach you how to manage the video board. We can teach you, some Photoshop stuff and kind of the process of how we want to approach, what we do. But you got to have that attitude. You got to have that positive attitude. You got to be willing to work and do the extra things. Like, those are things that are really important to me.
Yeah, no, that's great advice for even someone like myself who's in a role, but obviously looking to expand and continue my career. And I'm sure that's also self-reflection advice for yourself and not be complacent and yeah, no, that's super cool from that lens and seeing that, yeah, being creative, being obviously being reliable is a huge aspect for any job that you're in. But yeah, on your end, you get to have that creativity and you get to, like you said, Photoshop and all that
Mhm.
stuff. So I like how it kind of maneuvers into that creativity side as well.
Yeah, I think I don't know if I would be in sports if I wasn't doing what I do. Like, and that's what I really enjoy about it. Like, and that's also why I really like being at Wake Forest, because I've been at the mid majors where, like, Coastal was like, "Hey man, do whatever you want. Like, go for it. Like, do your thing. We could be creative." Like, we did some really interesting and unique things at Coastal Carolina, and same with Toledo. Sometimes when you get to, Ohio State or Tennessee, like, those traditions are there. They've been there for 50 years, like 100 years, changing a whole lot. And you also don't need to, because you're selling out every game and, all those things. So to be at Wake Forest where we can still be creative and make an impact, like, make a clear difference to our game days, like, that's been awesome. But we still have the history of being here 100 years. We have the opponents like Oklahoma coming in and Clemson and North Carolina. You're still getting the high impact opponents and quality of sport, but we're also still able to have fun with it and be creative and, revamp our look for the video boards and venue and, you know, have Carolina Mike come out at halftime or, do a different type of promotion that's never been done here before. So that's what I really enjoy about it.
Yeah, you're in a perfect blend of being able to do that new stuff and evolve a little bit, and then also keeping tradition as well, in a historic conference in the Big Four. So, Cliff, I appreciate the time here today. Thank you again for sitting down with me. I think that's all I had. Took some great notes for myself, and hopefully others can see this too. And I appreciate it very much today.
Yeah, I'll give you one piece to leave on, and this is something I always tell young employees because it's something that I did when I was early in my career, is use LinkedIn and not in the normal way of just connecting with everybody you can, but use it as a career map, because I remember, like, knowing that this is what I wanted to be. I wanted to be an assistant AD. I wanted to be an associate AD. So I went and saw those people that had looked up to and admired, and was like, hey, I'd love to be in this position someday. Like, what are those steps that they took to get there? And so I would go through and see, like, okay, they were a GA for a couple of years, and then they went and they had to move to this other school to be a coordinator or a director, and, just that career map is there for you, and it's really a cool part of LinkedIn where you can kind of see like what steps did they take to get where they are, and there's a lot of different ways to get there. But to kind of see like what path makes sense for me and what are the things that I'm going to have to do to get where I want to be. So it's a good piece to
Mhm.
that I always like to share.
Yeah, it's now becoming, a top app of mine on my phone, at least. Yeah, I'm always on there, and yeah, it's a great advice. After you get past the viewed your profile, kinda little millisecond of you looking at someone else's and knowing that they're gonna get that notification. Yeah, no, for sure, looking at other people's past and seeing how they got there, and, at least with this, reaching out to mostly everyone on LinkedIn. I've reached out to a couple people here at KU as well. Um, yeah, seeing and not getting everyone a response, or not everyone kind of wanting to come on, it's cool to see at least you still can see their career path and see what all they did as well.
Yeah. But yeah, I know I appreciate it. It's been good. If you ever need anything, need any help with anything, or just want to run something by me, just let me know.
Yeah, for sure, and if I visit my friend's brother, I'll for sure let you
Hit
know.
me up. Come on down.
Alright, sounds good. Thank you so much, Cliff. You have a good rest of your day.
All right, you too. Take care.
That's it.